right. Hope everyone's doing well. Good to see everyone. Fire away whenever.
The tackle situation, just how much, I think I asked you something along this line last week, but how much does, just the uncertainty at those spots, just, is it, hampering what this overall offense can do?
Yeah, I mean, they're important positions, right? I mean, I think that's represented when you look across the league and how those guys are paid and the value put on those spots. We have a group of guys now that we're developing that we feel like can go out and execute for us. Obviously, you hate to see injuries happen, especially with, like we said last week, Dwan's still a young player developing in this league. So to, feel like we're trying, we're breaking through with him and getting him into a point and then have an injury happen, you hate to see it. We have confidence in those other guys. We look forward to hopefully getting some guys healthy as the season progresses. But, look, it's a group effort up front. It's a group effort with the tight ends and the backs to help. And we talked about it last week in the passing game to mitigate a really good rush like Green Bay had. It's a hard thing to just put on one position group or one spot. Like, you got to get open, got to play on time, got to get yourself in the right protection. So, we want to put a plan together to help all those guys. And, we do have confidence in the tackles that we're playing with.
We see you chipping a lot with the running backs, the tight ends. The passing game has already struggled as it is, but how much does it take away from the passing game when you do have one or two guys who are chipping or double teaming before they even go out to run a route?
Yeah, you look across the league, guys have success throwing the ball and chip. You don't want to use any of those crutches to say that we're limiting ourselves there. Like, there are great pass rushers in this league. We're going to play against another one this week, and like, if you look at our schedule, we play against a handful of the very best across the NFL. So it's a commonality in the NFL to see guys helping on the perimeter, just with how talented some of those guys are. So, us as coaches have to do a better job of finding ways to get our guys open and be efficient in the passing game while also starting with the protection.
How Joe has done, and what more do you need to see from him?
Yeah, just got to get him comfortable. Probably felt comfortable early a couple weeks ago. Haven't been able to get back into rhythm. Again, our job as coaches to get him feeling comfortable and confident, and we've been working at that. He's not a guy that gets real up and down, so you wouldn't sense any of that. But just in the course of a game, allowing him to feel confident that he can rip it, and really that's our job as a coaching staff to make sure that we get him there.
We was talking yesterday about not forcing the ball and how important that is. So how do you find that balance? You talk about ripping the ball between, hey, I'm going to check it down versus take a
and that's what I mean by it's our job as coaches. Like, there's going to be premier looks where we say, hey, this is what we got it dialed up for. This is what we have it designed for. These are the times to take it, and then here are the times where, hey, we maybe didn't design it for this coverage. Here's your outlet, or here's the time to be smart, or the pocket's breaking down and it's a late play decision. Like, those are built in. I think it's during the week, the understanding of, hey, this is exactly what we're trying to attack. When we get this look, let's attack it. And that's why it falls on us as coaches to make sure we get that done.
You feel there were a couple there last week?
There's always a couple there. You know what I mean? Like, every week you're going to look back and say, shoot, we had this one, we had that. Joe's at a point in his career, you have great conversations about what he's seeing, what he's feeling. So there's always a why. It's just, continuing to get people to understand. And every week you play like, God, I wish we would have had that one. And then, I think about the extended play to Harold in week one, like, shouldn't have had that one but found it, so there is a give and take, but just, again, got to get him comfortable and do my job as a coach to make sure that during the week he's getting to that point.
Quinshon and how he's coming along, and it's a 38-yard run this past week, the 31-yard run the week before. Like, how's he doing with the workload and everything?
Yeah, seems to be doing okay. Really pleased with how he's just put his head down and worked as he's gotten back in the swing of things. Obviously, it feels like he's been here a lot longer, but it's, a couple weeks, 3 weeks, maybe less. So to say, like, where he is today and where he was when he first got here, where he'll be in 3 weeks, I think, optimistic about how he's prepping and how he's putting himself in position to have success. Obviously he was able to find yards there, especially in the second half of the game last week when we needed it, and, excited about where he's at as a young player.
The Lions are the second highest scoring team in the league, 90 points the last 2 games. Does a team like that influence your offensive game plan?
Yeah, it's a great question. They've been a fun offense to watch for years now. They have playmakers all over the field. They do a great job of getting the ball in those guys' hands and allowing them to be really good players. I think offensively you're conscious of what's going on the other side, but we know regardless of who we're playing offensively, like we still have to execute and do our job. We have a tremendous amount of trust in our defense, obviously, but really the focus still holds on us, less about, hey, we got to keep up or we got to be in a track meet. We just are more focused on doing our part and making sure that we can have success playing and play out. And you hope if you do those things, the results will come.
Do you see it starting to come, or do you believe that it will come soon between Joe and Jerry, which
I do. Yeah, I do. I think we're close there. Again, there's a lot of parts of the offense that, allow some of that to happen. And, putting Jerry in position to make sure that we're giving him the best opportunities to get open and finish some things. And, yeah, we've had some chances there that maybe we were just a little bit off. We've had some chances maybe we've missed. We've had some looks that we've liked that maybe just haven't connected. So just continue to find ways to get him going and get the ball in his hands.
Would you like to get him a touch or two early? I know you can't force it, but to kind of get him into the flow and rhythm?
Yeah, I mean, within the structure, there's always a plan there. I think good players like Jerry is, like you get him going early, usually reap the benefit. So definitely want to find ways to continue to move him around and get him, the best looks possible.
What makes that Lions defense so good at taking the ball away?
Yeah, well, they have a couple like playmakers at all the levels, right? I mean, like the pass rush with Hutch kind of creates the issue in the pocket. Branch is all over the field. He plays on the edge, plays at linebacker, plays at safety, punches it out. Really good coverage player, makes plays on the ball that way. 31 had, was it 8 interceptions a year ago? Or, and he plays the middle of the field probably as well as anybody, in the league, ultra aggressive. And, they have playmakers that are looking to get the ball out. They do a great job fundamentally as a group of punching and ripping at the ball. Like you watch Anzalone run down, constantly going after the football. So it's clearly coached how they attack the ball. They play an aggressive style where they're going to, challenge you and swarm it and be aggressive and play lower and do things to try to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable. And then they always have 11 seem to be chasing the ball. And when you do that, when the ball comes out, usually you recover it. So definitely have our work cut out for us there.
Yesterday, when I asked Flacco a general question about just the rookie's contribution, and he ended up singling out Harold Fannin. Since you were a tight end coach here last year, what do you think of his progress? And is there anything unusual going on there, or is he just off to a good start? He's
off to a good start. And he was off to a good start when he first got here, right? I think Harold's got a really good way about him, approaches it the right way, comes to work, puts himself in position to have success. Some guys have knacks of getting open and finding ways to do it, and hopefully we can continue to, having him put himself in position to do that for us. But it really starts with just he's a very humble kid that came in with his head down and put himself in position to move around and learn the offense and understand what we're asking him to do. And, him and Joe have had a nice connection here through the early part.
To know that continuity in the offensive line, what kind of role do Ethan and Joel and Wyatt play in that, especially because not only they're veteran status, but like they're been together as a unit for a while?
Yeah, I mean, those three have played together a lot. I think the communication with them is pretty seamless. Cornelius is a vet who's played a lot of football, so that transition's easy. And then, with Leviston, who's a young kid, I think the confidence that Joel can give those guys, the confidence that Wyatt can give those guys by playing next to him, communicating, they know the offense in and out. So they're able to kind of breathe some confidence into those young players just because they can communicate so much easier. And then as you build a continuity with that group, you hope it becomes seamless, right? Like you look at lines that can play together if they stay healthy or if they're together for a long time. Usually that group of 5 can kind of feel each other in a way that passing off games, communicating different looks, that becomes very seamless for them.
Huntington appears to be such a weapon. Huntington.
Yeah.
Is there a pathway to him being used beyond short yardage?
Yeah, I think, he's playing for us on 3 faces right now, so it's just we'll take him where we can get him. You got to fight Jock a little bit every day to get him over with us, but he's done a great job. I think he learns it well. I think he has a good skill set. Really an exciting young player for us, and hopefully there's continued use, because he does, everything we've asked of him has done a nice job with.
KT Livingston, who, from what I saw, graded out pretty well. in run blocking last week. I mean, I know you can't necessarily platoon or alternate. I guess you could alternate your tackles,
Right.
but can you find a way to take advantage of the fact that he is a really good run blocker, even if he doesn't get to start?
Yeah, I think. Look, we use guys in kind of Y roles. You know, there's ways to put your best players on the field. So I think like any position, we try to find what our guys can do best and allow them to do that. And, you know, KT's done that for us so far. And again, we have this young group of players that are fun to work with, and he falls into that category, even though he's only been here for a short time.
Sampson obviously was so involved week
Yeah.
one when Quinshon wasn't here. Not as involved the last 2 weeks. Is that more of a week-to-week thing, or do you just need to see something out of him to get him on the field a little more?
Yeah, week-to-week thing. You know, Dylan's done everything we've asked. We trust him. We know what he can do for us. You know, again, that would fall under, you know, my lens of let's get our best guys in certain spots, and we certainly feel like Dylan can do some stuff to help us. Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
What's up? How you doing? How's it going?
Block, but then the field goal. So how great was that for the unit to come through in such a big way?
No, it was a great finish to the game, great execution on both plays. So happy for our team.
Denzel add on those, like, on that block. It looked like he maybe got some fingers on it, but the way he just kind of, I know he's done that before against the 49ers a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
the way he can just come around the edge on those kind of plays.
I would just say Denzel isn't, I would say he's an extremely, I would say, what's the word I want to put on it? I would say he's a unique mover. You know, his ability to bend, obviously he's got really good burst and acceleration, so he's really, really good in that spot. I couldn't tell. After watching the tape, it does look like he got a finger on it, maybe. But Shelby did a good job getting his hand up.
You know, even on defense, his hands always seem to find footballs. What is it about him? What makes him so good doing that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when that happens, you just have like that instinct to be able to get your hands up. And for him, he's got long levers, like he's got long arms, so that gives him an advantage.
Seeing Andre make that kick, knowing everything that he's been through this past year.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. He's been through a lot, both personally and professionally. So the kid works hard. I've said this, the last handful of weeks, and to get the results we wanted was awesome.
Detroit is very daring and creative offensively. Are they also on special teams?
Yeah, they're a very aggressive team. So a lot of our preparation will be geared at that.
Taking up and involving kick return over Dylan, what went into that decision for this past week?
We saw some good things out of Caden in the preseason. He's got really good speed, so thought his skill set suited us for that matchup.
We'll have that role again this weekend.
I think that it's an option. Yeah, I think that it's an option. I think that, and honestly, I think that depending on what our need is going into that week, the practice squad's an extension of the roster. So all those guys are preparing every week like they're playing in the game. So.
We didn't know about Andre's mom until during the game or after the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was just curious, how did you see him handle that when he got back to training camp? And I'm sure you guys were really close. Did you see that affect him as everything was going on?
No, but I think that it's a big thing. You know, if that happens, you know, and you end up having a loss like that in your family, you know, just having to deal with that alone, and then having to go out and perform, you know, at a high level on the biggest stage in the world. It's a credit to the kid. He's got really good support from his family. I met his girlfriend and his dad in Philly. So, just try to support him throughout the whole time.
Kind of unnoticed the way that game ended, but you did have a fake punt there called during the game, didn't you?
No.
Snap out of the punt formation?
In our game? No.
I didn't think so either, but I wanted to make sure.
No.
Of the physicality, I'm sure that they're going to bring it on special teams just as much as they do in their other phases of the ball. So how do you guys have to be ready for that?
Yeah, they're coached well. I mean, Dave Phipp is a real good friend of mine. He's a really good football coach. Coaches really good fundamentals and technique, and they have a lot of really good players. One of their best core guys is a kid that I coached in Indy, Grant Stewart. He kind of runs the show for them. He's their PP. He's been a returner. He's a really good blocker, high energy, high effort guy, and they all kind of I feel like feed off of him in that regard. They're a physical group that plays through the whistle. So we're definitely going to have to match their energy and their physicality, and then obviously playing in a hostile environment in the dome is going to be another thing. So,
why do you think there's so many block kicks left across the league? You see some kind of trend there that it's harder to block?
I do see that like earlier in the season, I feel like you see more of that type of thing happening. Teams are still trying to figure out their personnel. You have young players playing and or blocking. So I think that factors. Typically, you see more blocks earlier in the season than late.
With you guys, the first 2 weeks, just the different issues that arose, the block punt, the missed kicks, the returns, like to have a game where those guys rebounded the way they did and made some game-changing plays for you, like how key is that in the big picture of a season, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's just good to get back on track a little bit. We're still not even remotely close to where we need to be. We're just trying to get better each week. We need to see more improvement from week to week. We're going against a really good team this week, so our focus is, you know, all in on Detroit and trying to win this game.
Kind of goes to what you went after week one. Obviously, you guys showed that confidence in him, but how much do you rely on like Rex and Corey and that entire battery to kind of help guide him through getting to where he did on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that it's important that you're getting support from, you know, obviously your coaches and the guys that are directly involved with that position. So those guys do a good job. They do a good job. I give those guys a good bit of, I would say, freedom relative to being able to prepare for their job. I have a lot of trust in those guys in that room. So they do a great job in the weight room. They do a great job in the classroom, and then obviously on the field they're all hard workers. So.
Friday he has the calf injury, has to go get an MRI. Not sure at that moment if he's going to be available to you. Ultimately he is, but then and then he comes through for you. But just from your perspective, what was that 24 to 36 hours like?
It's exactly like what you could imagine. Just the uncertainty on the availability of the player at the time for really any position that impacts like your unit. You're always ready to have a contingency plan and being able to plan and prep for if that were to, in the event that something like that were to happen. So I'm always thinking like even like during a game, like how are you going to handle certain situations? If you lost this guy, like you have to have a plan. So we had a plan in place, and thankfully we didn't have to execute it.
Did you actually make contact with another kicker?
We might have.
Corey's been around for a while, and what does he mean to that room specifically in terms of what, you know, the support he provides, you know, a guy like Andre or whoever the kicker may be? Just What does he mean in that regard?
Yeah, I think Corey's definitely, I would say, improved in his ability to, have leadership. He was voted as a captain. I think that his personality fits like that role well, because I think that he's kind of like, to a degree, he's almost like unfazed at times. He's not like uptight. He's not a nervous guy. He's pretty open and outgoing, I would say. So I think that factors for it.
When there's about can we run a play, snap at a time to get the field goal? Kevin said 12 is a little short. 15 seconds. A lot of teams do. Like, how often do you guys talk about that, either right at the moment or during the week?
Most times we're talking through those situations before the game. I mean, if it was like a thing based off of like distance or hash or something like that, it may be in game. But typically you don't see a lot of like. Are you saying like for like a last second field goal? Yeah, I mean, Kansas City executed one where the clock started at 17 seconds. That's pushing it. And thankfully for them, the ball was like closer to midfield, so those guys didn't have to run it. Like, their angle to get to the field is more direct, rather than like say the ball's at the 20. They're running from at like an angle, so you're almost running further. We've always said like 18 to 22 seconds is really like, quote, Mayday alert. So
how remarkable was it to get that all executed perfectly like that?
Oh, it was great. It was like, I mean, Coach shows all of those situations every week, things that happen from throughout the league. If a team handled a situation improperly, how it should have been handled. And then, when you're watching it in your seat, and everyone knows this is, it's easy to execute like that whenever you can just see it on TV. It's not that easy whenever you can actually do it in person and like do it in like real time. So for our offense to give us an opportunity to get into field goal range was great. Dave had, Joe throws a great ball to Dave. Dave does a great job of not just getting down, but where does he give the ball? Like, he doesn't throw the ball to the ref. He hands the ball to our center, who can place the ball. The official taps the ball. Now we can get our clock. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that goes unnoticed.
It looked like where like David actually was like tackled, and where he gave the ball to Ethan to kind of place. It looked like it was actually like farther back. Did you see that in real time or know that after the fact?
I did not. No, I didn't see that in real time.
3-yard field goal, but I don't
Did
think
they respot it?
I don't think they did.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway because
They
had more than enough leg. But
what's it like to? I mean, you mentioned you took us through the emotions of the lead up to Andre, the lead up to that play, where you're pushing the clock. What are your emotions like in that moment?
I don't know, but I feel like once we converted and we clocked it, like, I had no doubt that he was not going to make the kick. Like, I had no doubt that he's going to make it.